All right, let's get this deep dive started. We're going rogue today, folks. Vacation rogue, that is.
Ooh, sounds adventurous.
Oh, it is. We're exploring a podcast called Vacation Gone Rogue, hosted by Alex and Sam. And they really capture those vacation moments where everything goes sideways.
Those unexpected twists and turns that nobody plans for, right?
Exactly. It's like they say, Jumanji meets your aunt's Cancun timeshare. You know, those picture-perfect trips that suddenly become survival stories. We're going to figure out, like, what even causes these vacation curveballs and how people have managed to, well, survive them sometimes in hilarious ways.
What strikes me is that these stories aren't just entertaining, right? They show us how adaptable and resilient people can be when they're thrown into unexpected situations, which is valuable whether you're in the Amazon rainforest or dealing with, I don't know, rush hour traffic.
So true. Okay, let's dive into our first story. Imagine a cozy cabin getaway in the Rockies, right? You've got Sarah and her friends, probably roasting marshmallows by the fire, when bam, a black bear decides to join the party. Not exactly the kind of guest you want.
This reminds us how important it is to be aware of your surroundings, especially in bear country. You really have to take precautions to avoid encounters like that.
Now, wouldn't something with a strong scent, like Febreze, actually attract bears? I always thought you had to be super careful about scents.
You would think, right? But in Sarah's case, it seems like the unexpected noise and the unfamiliarity of the Febreze, combined with, get this, heavy metal music blasting, actually scared the bear away.
Wait, hold on. They sprayed the bear with Febreze, like bear mace, and then played heavy metal. I'm trying to picture that.
It does sound a little crazy, but bears are sensitive to loud, unfamiliar sounds. They avoid anything that seems threatening.
Wow, so a little bit of luck and some very creative thinking saved the day. Now let's go to a different wilderness situation. Jake, a solo traveler in Costa Rica, trying to find himself in the rainforest, gets a little too lost and ends up spending 3 days navigating the jungle. To survive, he eats termites, builds a shelter from ferns, and even makes friends with a howler monkey named Steve.
Jake's story is a perfect example of our survival instincts kicking in. Eating insects, although maybe not everyone's cup of tea, is a pretty practical survival tactic. They're a good source of protein and nutrients, especially in a tropical environment.
Okay, I have to admit, the thought of eating termites is not very appealing.
I get it, it's not for everyone, but it shows how resourceful he was, using what he could find, like insects for food and ferns for shelter. He had to think outside the box to survive.
And what about Steve, the howler monkey friend? What happened there?
Well, it seems Steve, although friendly, had a bit of a sweet tooth and developed a taste for Jake's granola bars.
Oh no, so much for jungle friendship.
It's a funny reminder that even in survival situations, a sense of humor can help. It also shows that you always have to be careful around wild animals, even if they seem harmless.
It's really incredible how these vacation gone rogue stories show how tough and adaptable people can be, even when things get really crazy.
It really is. It's like we have this hidden potential just waiting to be unleashed when we're pushed outside of our comfort zones.
Yeah.
Like in that Outback story we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah, the one where the tour bus broke down in the middle of the Australian outback, leaving those tourists stranded. They had to ration their snacks, figure out directions using the stars, and even fend off dingoes.
Exactly that one.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how their initial fear and panic gradually shifted into a sense of, resourcefulness. They pooled their knowledge, they learned new skills, and ultimately turned a potential disaster into an amazing survival story.
It makes you think maybe we don't give ourselves enough credit for how capable we are until we're really put to the test like that.
I think there's something to that. Maybe these vacation gone rogue experiences force us to face our limitations and discover hidden strengths that we never knew we had.
And we can't forget the power of teamwork. In that Outback story, the tourists really came together. They relied on each other, sharing their skills and knowledge to overcome these obstacles.
Absolutely. Collaboration and communication are even more crucial when things go wrong. It's a good reminder that even in tough situations, we're not alone. We have each other to lean on.
Speaking of relying on others, did you hear about that couple who got caught in a blizzard while hiking in the Swiss Alps? Talk about an unexpected turn of events.
Oh yes, that story is a classic example of how even experienced hikers can underestimate Mother Nature. Their decision to build an igloo for shelter and melt snow for drinking water shows how quickly they could think and adapt.
It also highlights how important it is to pack for any situation, even if you don't think you'll need all that extra gear.
Definitely. A well-stocked backpack can be the difference between a minor inconvenience and a life-threatening situation, especially in unpredictable environments like the Alps.
So we've talked about survival stories, but now let's switch gears to a different kind of vacation mishap, one that's more about social awkwardness than danger. Remember the family who accidentally crashed a stranger's wedding in Hawaii?
That story is a hilarious reminder that sometimes the most memorable travel moments are the ones that take us by surprise.
They thought they were going to a tourist luau, but ended up at a wedding ceremony. But instead of quietly slipping away, they just went with it and joined the celebration.
You have to admire their ability to laugh at themselves and make the best of a potentially awkward situation. It's a perfect example of how a positive attitude and a willingness to go with the flow can turn a potential disaster into a funny memory.
It makes you wonder if those unplanned detours are sometimes what make a trip truly unforgettable.
You might be right. There's definitely something special about embracing the unexpected. Those unplanned moments often create the most vivid and lasting memories.
You know, as we've been exploring these vacation gone rogue stories, I've noticed a recurring theme: the importance of knowing first aid. We've heard stories of people using duct tape as a splint, making a tourniquet out of a belt, and even performing CPR on fellow travelers.
It's true. Those stories really highlight how crucial basic first aid skills can be, especially when you're far from medical help. Knowing first aid gives you the ability to act quickly in an emergency and potentially save a life.
I think that's such an important takeaway for our listeners. So for anyone thinking, hey, maybe I should brush up on my first aid skills, what are some important things to focus on?
I'd recommend starting with CPR wound care and how to handle common medical emergencies like heat stroke, allergic reactions, and fractures. There are tons of resources available online, and organizations like the Red Cross offer in-person courses.
That's really helpful advice. Taking the time to learn those skills can give you peace of mind, not just while traveling, but in everyday life too.
You're absolutely right. It's empowering to know how to handle an emergency situation.
As we finish up part 2 of our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. Imagine you're putting together your own personal vacation survival kit. What essential items beyond the obvious, like a first aid kit, would you include, and why? We'll explore this idea more in part 3. And we're back for our final look at Vacation Gone Rogue. I have to say, I'm feeling a lot more ready for my next trip after hearing all these crazy stories.
Me too. These stories really drive home the point that we're more resilient than we think and how important it is to think on your feet when things go wrong.
Totally. One story that I just can't get out of my head is the one where a group of friends' sailboat capsized, and they ended up stranded on a remote island. They had to figure out how to find food and build shelter and even signal for help. You know, the whole works.
Ah, yes, that's a classic survival tale. It shows how resourceful people can be, even when they're not, experts in survival. They were regular people who just found themselves in this extreme situation.
And they didn't just survive, they managed to stay positive throughout the whole ordeal. They even found things to laugh about amidst all the chaos.
That's so important, that ability to find humor in tough situations. It can really help us cope. It helps us keep things in perspective, reduces anxiety, and can even spark creative problem solving.
It almost seems like having a sense of humor is just as important as having a first aid kit in these vacation gone rogue scenarios.
Right. I mean, a first aid kit is obviously crucial for physical well-being, but staying positive and finding moments of levity are so important for your mental and emotional well-being too.
So we've covered a lot of ground today: preparedness, adaptability, the power of community, and of course, humor. As we wrap up this deep dive, what's one final piece of advice you would give to our listeners to help them navigate their own potential vacation hiccups?
Don't be afraid to embrace the unexpected. Don't let the fear of things going wrong hold you back from exploring and getting out of your comfort zone. Those unplanned moments often lead to the most memorable and enriching experiences.
So true. A perfectly planned vacation might be relaxing, but it's the unexpected twists and turns that make for the best stories, right?
Absolutely. And what we've learned from Vacation Gone Rogue is that those mishaps, even those near disasters, can actually become opportunities for growth, learning, and self-discovery.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Vacation Gone Rogue. We hope you've enjoyed the ride and maybe picked up some valuable tips for your next adventure.
Safe travels.
And remember, stay curious, stay adventurous, and most importantly, stay safe out there.